Hey guys, and welcome to the FitPro Social with me, David Kyle.
And me, Ash Burley.
Good morning, good afternoon, I don't know, well,
Evening, good night.
good evening, yeah. To everybody watching this live and also anybody watching this on the replays, although, Ash, Facebook have done an update last week. Did you saw this, did you, yeah?
I did, yeah, about the live videos and getting rid of them, and yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, they must make enough money to be able to afford servers to be able to hold the storage of these live videos. Surely.
You'd hope so. I guess I get other things, like if you're uploading videos and things, I guess that seems to be fine, but I'm not quite sure why they've done it, really. There was a big push, wasn't there, at one point, about everyone doing lives, but they must have something else in mind. They must have something else in mind to just have people remove it. I think you can download them, can't you? But yeah, it's not the end of the world. I guess we'll have to find another place to host them for the time being.
I don't get it. Like, why? So yeah, if you obviously won't be watching this in 30 days' time because Facebook will have pulled this off Facebook because it's a Facebook Live. Anyway, the reason we're both kind of smiling is we were chatting just before starting, and we're like, what can we go with today? And then we kind of come up with this topic, and then we just spent about 20 minutes just talking about the topic and what we were planning to do, and then we were like, oh, let's just start it. So the topic, when you get past the grind, and what we mean by that is the fact that when a lot of you get started, same for both of us, we're in the business every single day, and we're not doing 8 till 5. We're doing wake up at 5:30, gym at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11, go home for lunch, come back at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Some of you who are lucky enough finish at 7. I used to go 8, 9, finish at 10, start again. I did that 4 days a week, and it was painful. But once you get past that grind, you start putting staff in place, SOPs in place, KPIs in place, and you start to have a little bit of disposable income where you can start stepping away from your business out of the grind. Things really do start to change in your business.
Definitely. I think the thing that really thought would be quite interesting to talk about this was something that happened to me yesterday. And I was taking Charlie for a walk at around, I don't know, probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And just that concept alone, as was walking through there's like an industrial estate not too far from where we live, and like a wooded area around it. And walking through it, I was just like, if I was working in these places, like I wouldn't be able to do it. If I was employed, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now without having to get someone's permission, book some time off, all that stuff that comes to it. Like I could go, I need to go and have 10 minutes to clear my mind or something. I can grab the dog and I can go for a walk. And it kind of made us realize, I was with my wife, Sarah, and I was talking about the concept of this and what it would be like to go back and kind of do that, and some of the things it's like to be employed. And there's nothing wrong with being employed at all. Nothing wrong with it. Like, it's completely fine. And some of the best people I know are employees, and both mine and David's business couldn't work the way they do without our teams. But when you're kind of an entrepreneur, or when you have your own business, once you get past that grind, and there is always going to be a grind. I think the majority of most majority of business owners, generally when they first start, work more hours and end up with less money than what most of probably their employee equivalents do. But as you put these things in place, that starts to change, and you get so much more autonomy. And I think that's the key thing for me anyway. Like, yes, you're going to get disposable income. You can go do things. You can travel. You can go to events. You can do relative the kind of things that you want to do. But the most important thing is that autonomy. Like, I can choose if I need to go and do something else. I can choose if I want to go and have a quick break. I can choose if Dave goes, let's go away next week because we've got this thing going on. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. I can make it work because I can control the things that are going on in my life and in my business, because the business I have, because we've kind of got past that grindy phase, it gives us that flexibility, that autonomy to choose and accept the consequences, good or bad, for making those choices. And I think that, to me, is probably one of the biggest things that happens when you kind of get past that grind phase. You get that level of control.
I think there's like 3 stages. You've obviously you're employed. You work 9 till 5 or 8 till 4, whatever your hours are. There's no stress after work. There's no stress before work. You might have stress within work, But then you finish. Then you have weekends where there's no stress at all. Then you have your holidays where there's no stress at all. You then move into being self-employed entrepreneur, although you're technically not an entrepreneur until you can get out of your business. So you are technically self-employed, working a job which you're probably getting paid way less for than you would if you work for somebody else, working way more hours, being in the grind, doing ridiculous hours, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And then once you get past that point, that's kind of where you then start really becoming an entrepreneur, the visionary, the growth maker, the whatever you want to call it, where you think things change. And that is the perfect example there. You saying, like, we were talking about the next boardroom day we're going to do for the incubator clients. It's in 2 weeks' time. But you said, should we just meet up the day before? Or should we stay the day after?
Yeah.
Because we can now do this because of the systems, the SOPs, the KPIs, the staff, the frameworks, and the business that we've put in place. So yeah, when you get past the grind, honestly, things really do start to change, and they start to change quite quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I do think you're right about those different stages, and I think there's a switch that tends to happen. I think, especially when you have been self-employed for a while, because you kind of get to like a burnout phase. I'm pretty sure we've all been to this burnout phase at some point. You know, if you've had a business for a while, you're probably going to have felt that feeling, and you realize something has to change. So you start putting these things in, which are really they're not complicated. Like, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. They don't have to be complicated things, but as soon as you do that and you put them in and you get help, you get these systems, you start tracking some of the KPIs and the data so you can see what's happening. You get to the point where, and honestly, this happened to me, I got stressed because I wasn't as stressed. I was so used to being busy, so used to being stressed. I started putting it in, I'm like, I need to be doing something. And honestly, at one point, I'd be going around on socials, I'd be like thinking I've got to go and work. And then I realized that, well, actually, no, things are still working, but I'm not having to like go crazy on my hours. And that was actually a hard thing for me to do. I'll be honest, it was a difficult thing.
But just on that point there, that's such a key, interesting one. I remember, and everybody watching this is probably going through the same situation where you wake up in the morning and you're like, I need to do a social media post. I don't know what social media post to do. Oh, I really need to do a social media post. God, I have to do a social media post. I'm really got to do the social media post. And before you know it, like 3 hours have gone by. You still haven't done the social media post, and you get super stressed because you haven't done your social media post, and everything's going wrong. And then you start thinking about it. What systems can I place? What organizations can I place? How can I structure the social media for the month? And once you put these things in place, everything then changes.
Yeah. And it changes, like you said there, fast. Like within the first, and I say fast, like you've got to give things time to get used to it. You can adapt stuff, but like within a matter of months, you'll start noticing things change quite quickly. I do think half of that is probably your own mindset because you're getting used to this new thing. I say this to all our clients all the time, like we'll implement these things. Like if we do a done for you setup for somebody and we're building out, so you probably do this with Lead Deck if you're setting things up for them in Lead Deck. Like they're so used to doing a lot of these things manually that you'll set it up for them. Like, we don't have to do anything with that. Or it'll take you like 2-3 minutes to do this particular task, but they'll spend half an hour because all they're doing is watching it, looking at it, because they haven't yet got the confidence in that system. And I think that happens sometimes. And I think if you could get over that quickly, you probably would feel the change quicker. But yeah, within the first few months, you start really noticing it. As long as you're tracking things, as long as you're tracking those key KPIs, you're tracking those KPIs, and they're going in the right direction, then you'll start to see that this thing does change quite quickly, and you start getting a lot more autonomy over the things that you do with your time and also in your business as well.
I think it's a strange point, this, okay? So we know what we know now. 2 years ago, we knew what we knew then. And the saying that I used to always say to mentors, where they used to say to me, so what is it you want to learn? How can I help you? And the saying I would go to them was, I don't know what I don't know. So you need to teach me what I don't know, but I can't tell you what I need to know because I don't know that. And so I kind of get to the point of, you kind of do have to go through the grind. You can't really skip the grind. You can go and learn some modules or models or setups or frameworks and stuff, but until you've actually experienced it It's like if you were to take on a brand new salesperson, but you've never done the sales for your fitness business, and you just say to that person, just go and make the sales, then you don't know what feedbacks they're going to get, how it's going to fall out, how it's going to work out, what numbers they should be expecting to hit, and all that type of stuff. And without knowing that stuff yourself or having the experience of doing it, you can't really hold other people accountable to those tasks. Would you kind of agree?
Yeah, literally 100% agree. It's something I'm constantly talking about with our clients. We sit down and we talk about a lot. Like, I want you to go and do this, and go, I don't really want to do that. And I'm like, I know, but I don't want to pay taxes. But guess what? I have to pay it. So like, you've got to kind of go through this process, and a lot of it is exactly what you've said there. I say, look, yes, we can build out or help you develop an automation or a more detailed system for this. But at the end of the day, the first thing you need to do is figure out, what do you want to do? Maybe start with a basic frame weight with the foundations and the fundamental stuff and say, right, let's go and test this out. And you have to have the patience to do these things and the patience to test them out. Because when you do, you start getting data. And you go, all right, and so this is working. This is helping me hit my KPIs. Or maybe it's not. So I need to go make an adjustment. And you'll adjust that process to suit. And once you adjust that process to suit, you go, right, then I can now start creating a bit more of a detailed SOP. I can think, okay, now I know the exact steps I need to get from point A to point B to help me reach these important key indicators that I need. And once I've done that, I can know, okay, how can I now maybe add a new system to do this, or add a team member to do this, or add a software in to go and do this. And you can only really do that properly if you've been through that process, because it means that, one, you'll understand what's working for your business. Two, you'll understand the process. So if you are going to bring a system into a tool in to do it, you understand what tool you need. Or if you're going to bring a person to do it, you understand what they're going through. So if they've got any questions or issues, you can deal with it. And it also means you actually understand what's happening. You understand that if a person is doing that job, you understand that what they're going through at that moment. And then when you're doing that, you can have actually conversations with that person. And I'm sure you do with your team members. Like, you'll bring people in who may be better at sales or maybe better at a particular thing, but they're still following your process. But they might come back when you do your reviews with them and say, actually, this might be something worth trying out. And then you can use their experience to say, right, let's test it. But you couldn't have that proper conversation with somebody unless you understood where you're starting from, because you don't know what you're changing and what you're testing. So it's such an important thing to do. And it requires a level of patience. And one of the things I always say to our guys when you go into any kind of business really is that you need to be able to make quick decisions. You need to be able to make those quick decisions, look at the data, and have the patience to test. So even though you have to think fast, even though you have to make these quick decisions, you still have to have the patience to test it. And I think what happens is some people make quick decisions, they run it for like a week, and they go, it's not working. And then they fob it off and then start from scratch again. Like, you can't really do that. But if you have the patience to test and have the bravery and confidence to make quick decisions, whether they might work or might not, then I think very quickly you'll start getting these systems and processes fine-tuned and in place. And once that's done, you'll start noticing that you have a lot more time and income to go and do the things you want to do. And you'll probably also realize you might not need as much income as what you need to do the things you want to do, because that's always been a big thing. I think a lot of people go into businesses, and we've talked about this before, like, well, how do you set targets thing for businesses? And at the end of the day, your business is a tool to help you achieve the things you want to achieve in life. That's it. For me, it is anyway, because if your business doesn't do that, then what's the point of having it? Like, like, it's not going to help you do the things you want to do. So I think if you understand that, you can really look at it and you think, well, actually, what do I need? What systems do I need? What processes do I need to live that life that I want? And normally you can get this balance of, okay, I need X amount of income, I need X amount of money and time to do these things. And that's what I really like about that process. You start to see what it is and you think, actually, now I'm starting to design my own life because I built a business. And I think that's such a cool position to be in. Like, you can go, it's one that I think entrepreneurism is one of the, and I mean, more than self-employed, like actually having a business is one of the few things, if you get it right and you're willing to do the work, you're willing to think fast and take fast action, and you're willing to have the patience to test things out, you can literally design pretty much any aspect of your life, because you can change anything you want. You can do whatever you want. It's your business. So like, you can do what you want. And that just means that you can create the life that you want out the back of it. And I think that's such a cool thing that, yeah, entrepreneurism gives, but you have to do the grind first. You have to put the work in first, and then it'll pay dividends in the future.
So if you don't believe what Ash is saying here, then last year, about, well, I don't know, what was it, like September, October, I messaged Ash saying, fancy going away on holiday on a cruise for a couple of days? And he was like, yeah, okay. And then we booked it and went 8 weeks later. This is the kind of freedom it kind of grants you. Like, we hadn't saved for months. We hadn't planned this years in advance. I literally messaged him. He confirmed with Sarah, because obviously Sarah's the boss. I had to check with Holly. And then they both agreed. And 8 weeks later, there we are on a boat. But I think in order to get to where it is you want to get to, of you're stuck in the grind right now, the only way to get unstuck from the grind is actually trying to figure out where it is you want to get to, and not in the next 6 months, not in the next year. We're talking closer to 3 years time. Because if you say, yeah, you know what, I work in a commercial gym doing these hours and I'd love to be opening my own studio, then that's great. That's a short-term goal. But what is the long-term goal of having that studio? Because then getting a studio is one thing, but then you've got to refigure out all the plans from there. Now, saying I want to go from a personal trainer in a commercial gym to owning a studio where I don't have to work now gives you a much clearer roadmap of what you need to do. Now, granted, you might open that studio and decide, you know what, I actually want to start doing tattooing, and you move into a completely different industry because paths have crossed and stuff. Like, the goal you set today for the next 3 or 4 years isn't going to be most of the time where you will end up. But that helps you start planning, start building roadmaps, start building frameworks to where you want to get to. So if you know you want to open a studio, and then you know you need to move out of the studio because you want people to work for you, then you now need to figure out, cool, I now need to build a brand that's not about me. So if your personal training is called DK Fitness, which mine was called DK9 Fitness, it was all about me. Then if I have a studio, it's all still about me. So if I step away, it's where is David? So you don't think, yes, open a studio. You think, where once I've opened a studio, what is it I want? And yeah, it's huge, vast caverns of where you are now to where you actually want to get to. And the gap is ginormous. But without having that ginormous gap, it's harder to build a framework, a path, a guide. And obviously, before this episode, I shared with Ash a real, I'm probably going to go impossible goal that I've got in my mind, and I know what that goal is. And we literally chatted about it, and we talked about what I would need to do to get to that impossible goal. And I said, you know what, it's probably going to take me 50 years to get there. And it might take 50 years to get there, but now I know where I actually want to get to. It's easier to break down the levels, the steps to get there. And obviously, when I get to, let's say, level 2 of level 5, it's not like I know what I need to do at level 2 or level 3 or level 4. But now I have an idea of that's where I want to get to. I can then figure out what I need to do to get to that next level, to the next level, to the next level, because I've really planned such a bigger goal.
Yeah, and I think without those bigger goals, it becomes very difficult. I do think, especially within our industry, from what I see, it's who we spend time with in our industry. I'm sure it's the same across multiple industries as well. Because I do think a lot of people come to this with relatively short-term goals. They might think it's a bigger goal, but they have relatively short-term goals. And you can see in their approach. And I think sometimes there's a level of desperation. Sometimes maybe they just want to get money in, they're just going to get whatever in. And they don't always have these long-term ambitions and goals for their business. And without that, you literally you can't get there. I mean, it's just like training clients, isn't it? Like, you need these bigger goals and you work backwards from that. You start with the goals. Once you understand the goals, you can break them down into smaller sections. Once you've got the smaller sections, you can then set targets for those particular goals. So like, it might be weight loss targets or whatever. And then once you've got those weight loss targets, you can then build the systems to help you reach those targets. Then once you've got the systems to reach those targets, you can then create the habits to support those systems. That's it. You just do that for a longer period of time and you'll hit your goals. I mean, there's nothing new here. Like, we do it as coaches all the time to our clients, and we can do the same things in our business. The other thing I always think is quite interesting about what you said there is when people do set goals, like if you take a step back and you have for these long-term goals, I do think people rush them. They paid a lot of time thinking about the short-term goals, but they don't think, oh, what do you want to be in 5 years? They send it like, oh, quick, with a willy-nilly kind of like statement. I'm like, take some time to really think about it. Think about what that will look like for you. Like, what's that going to look like for your life, for your family, for your day-to-day, for your retirement, for whatever it is? And then how does your business have to look for that? What things do you need to achieve in your business for that to happen? That can become your long-term goal. And I will always say this. I think most people overestimate what they can do in the short term and massively underestimate what they can achieve in the long term. And so go big. David's goal's massive. So go big, because you might just be surprised of how close you'll get to that.
What's the date? 7th of March. Okay, I'll need to remember that for my record. In 50 years' time, I'll come back to this. I won't come back to this Facebook live video because it will have been deleted. I'll have to go to the YouTube
save it somewhere.
whatever it is. So yeah, and I was just thinking then, I always tell people it's your personal goals you want to reach for. But then thinking of, like I just said you that I've got a business goal that I want to hit, and it's extraordinary. I think you have to decide in life, is it a business goal or is it a personal goal? Because you're married and eventually you're going to have kids, and I will be married eventually, and eventually I will have kids. And then I think when kids come, that changes the scene again. So I know we talked about what I just said about there. You've got this 5-year goal where you don't just open a studio, you decide what you want to do after you've got this studio. And the roadmap isn't always going to lead you to that long goal. But by having that long goal, you can then decide where you go to. Mm-hmm. So like when we do have children, our lives will be very different, yeah, or probably the same.
Let's just be positive and say we're the same. We know it won't deep down.
The introduction of a different figure in your life starts changing it. Like Ash might decide, or Sarah might decide, you know what, Ash, I actually don't like Mansfield anymore. I want to go and live in Spain. And like, wow, okay, everything's completely changed then as well. So we need these long-term goals that you can really work towards, goals that you can start putting in place and start mapping out and planning how you're going to get there. But no, you will go via here and detour here and go completely off route here. But with having that goal, it gives you a purpose. It gives you a reason to want to move the ball move forward and get out of the ground.
Yeah, and definitely don't be afraid to make changes. One thing I've definitely learned over running like multiple businesses now, and is that you can change. Like, there's nothing wrong with changing. I think some people go into business, especially the first time. I kind of did the first time I did this a little bit. And you think, this is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is the approach I'm going to go and take. This is my baby, in inverted comments. I really don't like when people call their businesses their babies, because they're not. Like, at the end of the day, if someone offered me some money now for my business and it was a decent amount, I ain't going to do that for my kids, am I? So like it's and that's the difference. And I think businesses, or anything you do with your business, is kind of what Dave was saying there. You look at some of your personal goals, or what I was saying earlier on, like you build everything around what you want from your life, so you can decide on how your life's going to look. And if that requires you to make a change, it makes a change. Both me and Dave had different businesses before we did this, different ones that are main things that we don't do anymore. In literally, similar industries, but they're different to what we're doing now.
I wanted to become a professional football coach, so I started a football coaching business, and now I'm helping fitness businesses grow their fitness businesses, which is, I mean, it's not even
completely different. I mean, I used to take people rock climbing and kayaking. Like, completely different. It's completely different, and it's just like you make these changes based on the things that happen in life as well. And that's why I also think it's important to make these quick decisions sometimes. I think one of the key things about entrepreneurs is to make quick decisions. Don't be scared to make them. Like, don't be scared to take risk as well. And the more you become the more your businesses start to grow, you'll start learning you do take more risk. Like, risk is not just like throwing money at something. It's like, I need to employ people, I need to do whatever. These are all risky things to do at the end of the day. Like, there's no guarantee it's going to work, but you get more comfortable with that. But the more risk you take, the more quick decisions you take, and you have the systems and those KPIs in place to see whether it's working or not, you can then also make a quick decision to say, this ain't working. I can't remember who said it, but someone said, like, you want to try and fail fast. As in, like, get in there, do it, see if it's working or not. And then if it doesn't work, you can change it. And I think that's a key thing to try and do. But yeah, I don't know about you, but has anyone ever asked you the question before, like, would you ever go and work for somebody else again? Would you? So I'm going to ask you the question if you haven't. So I'm going to ask you the question. Would you go and work for somebody else and know what you know now?
It would really depend. if it was a job that I really love, like if Everton said, "Do you want to become the football manager? Do you want to be the coach at Everton?" I would. If someone said, "Do you want to run the marketing for a real big business where I still could live the life I live?" then maybe I would. Because like you say, it's all based on the life that you want to live. Yeah. I love getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go and train. I wasn't a big fan of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to train people. So I mean, there's those differences. Yeah.
Yeah. I quite like that's a good way of looking at it, because it's the same thing, isn't it? Like, you have to just build a life around you. So if these opportunities do appear, then why not go and take it, as long as it gives you that same lifestyle that you want and that autonomy you want over what you want to do in your life. But yeah, I do get the thing, like, you know, go become a coach at Everton would be kind of cool to do. You probably do it for like nothing. There's certain things, there's certain roles that, like, I do it for free. It doesn't matter.
Okay, appreciate everybody for tuning in as usual. Hope this has given you a little bit of Friday motivation, a little bit of a Friday boost. It is easy to get out the grind. You just need to know what it is you want to achieve. Once you know that, roadmaps, frameworks, systems, whatever you need to do suddenly become super clear. Then, like, you can't see them when you plan. Oh yeah, now I can see them. And that's really all it is going to take. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not going to say it's going to be instant. But once you start putting these things in place, things become a lot clearer. So if you agree or disagree with anything we've had to say today, do let us know in the comments, or feel free to message us or reach out from there. But until next week, we will see you all then. Goodbye.
See you then. Cheers on. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the FitPro Social. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.